out of the zone of being back at work when you've been out of it for so long. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean that's a nice little paternity break you had. You had six weeks off.
Dude, I know. It's been like the longest continuous break I've had probably in the last decade. Actually, for
I
sure,
took 2 weeks
the
off.
longest break.
Yeah, I took 2 weeks off, and I was just telling someone today that that was the longest time I've taken off since probably first year of med school.
Yeah, man.
Or that time between med school and residency. This was the first time I had like 2 weeks off in a row, and it felt nice.
Yeah, I mean, in these last 6 weeks, I mean, so my wife, Samia, she had her second baby, a little baby girl, uh, Sophia,
Well, the
and
funny
thankfully
part
she's
is that we both had babies
yeah,
one
a
day
day
apart from each
apart.
other.
It's
Two
pretty
dogs,
crazy, right?
2 babies.
I know, back to back days. Um, but yeah, the time off has been awesome, man. I mean, really just like a lot of family time, just being at home, being around more often, doing, like the mundane stuff, the daily routine, spending a lot of time with my son, who's 3.5, and doing a lot of his school stuff. Basically, stuff I never really had the opportunity to do because you're working, you get to work early before he's got to get to school. I couldn't do the drop offs and all that. I missed a lot of school events, and with this time off, it's been great. I've enjoyed it a lot more even than I thought I would. I'm sure
Yeah,
you feel the
man.
same way. You didn't have as much time.
I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, I slowed down quite a bit, right? I mean, I was working so much leading up to the delivery and right before we had our baby. I was working a lot. My June, July, August were packed. I worked longer hours, saw more patients. Just always just was swamped with work, and then we had the baby, and then I took 2 weeks off completely. We had kind of planned for that, so I had blocked off those 2 weeks, and I had started to tell my patients about it and kind of let them know, hey, this is gonna happen. I'll be out for a couple of weeks. Like, don't worry. And they all were very nice. They was just, hey, take time off. You need this. This is your time with family. And I'm glad people understand that now. I'm a human being too. I need time with my family. No one's gonna be getting
Yeah.
mad at me. And everyone was super understanding, but I took 2 weeks off, even though, you feel guilty at this time. At this time, especially someone like someone in our field. We've been so used to just like go go go. We have not really learned how to like slow down and take a break and kind of let the career part of our life just take a back seat. We both uh, have been so focused on our work and careers that that's been a priority. I mean, yeah, family's been a priority too, but we've kind of juggled both, and this was the first time after a while where we were able to kind of sit back, relax, and focus a little bit on the family. So just like you, I spent a lot of time with my son. While the baby, my wife was obviously more busy with the baby and having to spend more time with her. I spend a lot more time with my son, taking care of him, to picking him up from school, dropping him off at school, going to the park with him, and then feeding him, putting him to bed. And that's mainly been my responsibility. And even now, since I've been back to work for the past 6 weeks now, I've been back, and I'm still having to do all that. And it's kind of uh, put things in perspective. How no matter what, I was just so much happier when I was just spending more time with my son and more time with my family. It just felt happy and felt more settled versus when I used to just go 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 in terms of work.
Yeah, it's like a shifting mindset, I think, in society, right? Like in, 2 generations ago, it was almost unheard of for dads to take a significant amount of time off. And I think like in this regard, the U.S. is behind a lot of other countries. I mean, even they're behind Canada, behind Europe in terms of what is accepted and even expected as a paternal time off. Just July 1st of this year was when my employer, Baylor, added this amount of leave, gave us 6 weeks for paternal leave as well. It was much less before. That's as recent as this year, you know. Obviously, like the federal law, FMLA permits 12 weeks of time off, but it doesn't mandate paid time off. It's just 12 weeks of time off so you don't lose your job. Whereas, like Canada, for example, they have a built in up to 40 weeks. I think it's like 50, I forget the exact number. It's like 55% salary, but you can't lose your job. So, I mean, compare 12 weeks versus 40 weeks. and their 40 weeks is with at least 50% or more pay. I mean, that's a substantial amount. It just takes not only the ability to take time off, but it takes like the stress of earning the bread and bringing in an income away from the equation, right? It allows you to actually be focused and be present both mentally and emotionally and time wise with your family. I think that's a huge factor, and I'm glad things are changing. I think other fields have changed faster than medicine has. I think medicine is one of the slower ones to adopt that. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, bringing in a human into the life, into your family, it just you introduce chaos completely. I mean, things change. For the past, like, 4.5 years, 5 years, we were used to a certain rhythm. We had one kid, and it was the two of us, and we would be taking care of him, and we had a rhythm. We would take turns putting him to bed, or feeding him dinner, or spending time with him, and one of us would get a chance to go out and maybe record a podcast. But but then you introduce a child, and then it's just chaos. There's so much more responsibility, so much more work, and just for other families as well. I mean, thinking about families that both parents work full time and they both have to take time off. I mean, 12 weeks is not just enough for, at least one parents need to be with the baby for a longer time. It's sad. I mean, it's a sad reality of our society that a lot of times both parents have to return back to work in 12 weeks, and the baby has to be dropped off at the daycare at 3 months of age. And that's unfortunate reality of the world we're living in, right? I mean, that's in the United States. We don't have that much long of a break where I think it's necessary. I mean, just looking at my life and our situation, we're privileged. I mean, we have the resources to probably have a nanny and have help. I have my family in town. Things are easy, but still things are harder. Like they're much harder now, and it's taking time for us to settle in this new routine. Can only think of someone who's maybe a single parent bringing a kid into the world, and now they can only take 12 weeks off, and in 12 weeks they have to think about what where they're going to put the kid in, what daycare. Maybe they're on the wait list. They have to drop them off uh, at a place where they're worried about the kid getting sick, and they can't really take too much time off because they've already used up their FMLA. So it's tough, and I wish things were different, but they're not.
Yeah, there's almost like no spare capacity, right? If anything goes wrong or anything doesn't go according to plan, like you mentioned, what if your little baby who you drop off in daycare gets sick? You can't send them to daycare if they got a fever or something like that. They got to stay home. You got to take time off work, and you have your allotment of blank amount of hours or time that you've accrued off. If you exceed that, do you not get paid now? Could your job be at risk, right? I mean, it, that question is really hard to answer. There's not really a good plan, and people just kind of hope it doesn't happen. That's a very tough situation to be in. I really feel for a lot of people that are like that,
I mean,
um, which kind of
let's go
begs the
back to
question, like
residency, right?
about.
Remember in residency, I mean, there were people that had babies in residency, and there were that women had, girls in our class that had babies during residency or fellowship, and they could only take like 4 to 6 weeks off because it's
Yeah,
affecting their training as well. It's not just about how much time they're allowed to have off, but it's also they might have to delay a year of graduation because if they miss up to 3 months of training, that's a lot of OR time, a lot of cath lab time, a lot of clinic time that they lose out on, and it's not enough to make up for their hours. So in medicine, it's even tougher now because especially for women who are in residency, who are in fellowship, who cannot afford to miss that much time because it affects their training. Now they have to take time off, and a lot of them were forced to come back within 4 weeks. I mean, can you imagine a mom
yeah,
giving
it's
birth and
crazy.
coming back in 4 weeks?
But that's like, I mean, I can't speak on every country in the world, but like, it almost seems like a uniquely American issue in terms of the residency and having a baby because like the two other main health systems that I've been exposed to in my training, like in Norway and in Australia, the whole mindset was different of the training program and of the woman who herself was pregnant and then in the postpartum period. It was very accepted and very common to like take extra time if you needed it. I mean, I remember one resident when I was in Norway as a medical student, one of the residents, the orthopedic resident, she had taken 18 months off. And it wasn't like a big deal. It wasn't seen as odd or out of the ordinary. The other co-residents knew it. Everyone was accommodated. They adjusted the call schedule, the rotation schedule. All of the attending surgeons over there were understanding of it. And she came back and just started kind of where she left off. I mean, obviously, that 18 months, she would still have to do the training, but it wasn't in their mind, this like urgency, like, oh my gosh, I have to finish the residency. It's 5 years. I must finish in 5 years. I mean, you had a child. If you need longer, you need longer. You know what I mean? And Australia was very similar. Whereas here, like, yeah, I mean, even the residents that I train and work with in our program, we had quite a few just recently in the last year or so that have had babies, and they all within 6 weeks they've been right back at it. And I mean, they're like, in like the resident lounge in like the OR workroom right next to the ORs in between cases, they're like pumping for a few minutes here and there, putting it in the fridge and going back, doing a surgery, coming back, pumping some more. I mean, they're exhausted. They're not spending that time with their baby. It's tough for sure. And
They're
you
not getting
talk to them
sleep
about
either.
it. I mean, they're they're very stressed, and there's just not a good option because it's that mindset like, oh my gosh, we gotta finish, and that has some weight, right? Like you've been in this process for so long, you just want to be done. You don't want to be resident forever. So I mean, I'm not saying that the foreign systems I mentioned are better. It's just very different.
Different mindset. I mean, in America, we're always in a race to just get somewhere or be somewhere, right? We never really step back and look at where we are currently. Even as a guy in medicine, me and you're both building our practices in the sense that we're kind of establishing ourselves. At this point, taking time off to kind of step back, it's kind of looked down upon a little bit. It's just like, hey, like, are you really gonna just not come to the hospital anymore? Or you're gonna take, it's not from, maybe not from our generation, but from the generation before us sometimes, where you do feel a little judge where, oh, he's going to take 6 weeks off or 3 months off. Wow, like it's in back in our day we took no time off. I had a baby one day and next day I was in the hospital rounding, and that's kind of was the mindset of the generation before us. But it's, I think it's very important when your family is going through such a change. Your wife needs your support. I mean, yeah, she might have her own family around, but there's no other support like her own husband. Like your kid, your older kid might need your support. They want you to be around. They need to see a familiar face. They don't want to be with grandparents or with a nanny or at the daycare. They want to be with their dad or with their mom. And I think being there, that's an important part of manhood now, right? Being there for your family, being a provider, but also being there in times of change like this. It's very important. So I think there's a shift in mindset in our generation where our millennial dads, or Gen Z dads, are more and more there and available for these kind of situations too, rather than just being the providers.
No, for sure. It's funny. Like one of my favorite attendings in residency, we were just talking about this, like when we were all residents, and when I was a resident, I was married, but we didn't have any kids at the time, and he like was very proudly telling us. He was probably at the time in like his early 50s or so, um, and he was saying that when he had his first kid, he was a resident, and proudly he was like, my wife was going into labor, and he was like, I was doing a surgery, and so I finished the surgery, went with into the labor room. She delivered and all that, and he's like, then I went back and scrubbed into another case, and I was like, so the day your wife delivered your first child, you didn't even stick around to like hold the baby for longer, like sit next to your wife. I mean, like any of that. It
Yeah,
was
it
just
just
like
wasn't the
boom,
mind.
boom,
Yeah.
boom. And it was like a sense of pride, almost like as if it's like a badge of honor that oh, I made this sacrifice or I suffered. I mean, you did, but so did your wife. Like, and you missed out that time with your kid, and like that mindset of like, I just need to be the stable breadwinner. I need to be stoic and all this stuff. I mean, there's a sense of stability in the home too, and like a familial stability, not just in terms of a financial stability that you provide, right? I think that is also changing a lot. It's important to have not just a single parent that is the household and the stable one in the household, and the man just goes out, earns money, comes back in the evening and dinner time. Like that, that's changed. It's already changed a lot, and I'm really happy it's changed a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there was always an idea in the generation before where the dad has worked hard all day. He's coming home. Let's make sure the house is clean. Make sure we're not too noisy for the dad, or let's make sure that he's comfortable. And there's these situations. If you, I mean, maybe it was not like that in our families, but men in those generations would come home. They would watch TV. They would spend their time maybe one would want quiet time, read the newspaper, and sometimes the kids were expected to leave them alone or be quiet or keep noise down, and that the father figure was always that scary man that mom married, that provides the groceries and the money for the groceries. But when the dads left the house in those days, the tension eased a little bit, and that's kind of the stereotype you see from previous generation. Maybe or maybe not so true in all households. In some households that was the case. I mean, it's definitely the case when we watch older movies or older shows. You
Yeah, it's
kind of
like
get that
something
sense.
set in the Great Depression times.
Yeah, yeah, but that's changed a lot over time. I think it's a good change. I mean, I think dads being there, putting their kids to bed, uh, giving them dinner, showing them that it's okay to like prepare dinner for the whole family and cooking, or you know, going to ride bike with the kids, and and just being playing that role of being the fun person in the house as well, and the easygoing person in the house as well. I mean, yeah, when you need to discipline, you discipline, but I think it's very important for the kids to feel secure in the house with both parents, and not just have the mom the one they go to all the time for all the comfort, and dad be the one that they're scared of, right? So I think it's a nice change in a lot of the attitudes of the more recent dads, and we're much more involved in our kids' lives. I mean, I'm the sole diaper changer in our family right now. Yeah, and I know like many men from the generation before us did not change any diapers. I get that a
Which is like,
lot.
I just have always found that funny. I mean, like it's not that big of a deal. It's like it's really easy to do. And like I kind of like changing my kid's diaper because like I'm keeping my child clean. Like if I want him to be clean. I don't want him to have a dirty diaper. Like Sami and I both change the diapers. We don't really fuss about it. I mean, whoever happens to be holding the kid when it's like, oh, they need a diaper change, just go do it. It takes like 5 seconds. But you're
Yeah,
right. I
but
mean, so many dudes, like, I don't know, our dad's generation, even older, they very proudly are like, yeah, I never changed a diaper. I was like, I mean, like, why not? This is not that big of a deal.
yeah, it's quick, and it doesn't take that much time. I think
Right.
changing the diaper becomes this big deal. Oh yeah, you'll have to change so many diapers. I mean, it takes like literally less than 2 minutes to change a diaper. I don't mind doing that. At least I'm not the one who has to like pump or breastfeed the baby. That's we have it easy compared to the moms who have to recover from
For sure.
delivery, recover from a C-section or whatever, and then also be responsible for feeding the baby as well. Uh, you know, a lot of times. So it's a nice mindset, but it's kind of, you sometimes realize, when you take times off like this where you were working, and then you stop. Initially I felt kind of anxious about it. Hey, I'm building this practice, and now all the momentum I had of building and growing this practice, it's kind of dying. Like, maybe it'll get affected. Maybe the new patients that I was getting constantly, and the doctors that were referring to me, now they're going to feel that I'm not as available, and maybe my practice will stop growing, or patients will get pissed off. But in the end you realize, it's just such a small blip in your whole career span. Just because you're taking some time to be human, be the dad, be with your family, does not mean your career will get affected, things will get stalled. It's, in the big span of things, like, 20, 30 years, you'll remember that time that you spent with your family rather than time you spent working all day. Yeah, maybe my practice may take a little hit. Maybe the revenue that I generate, or the amount I build this month or next month, or even for the rest of the year, is much, much lower than what I was doing before. Or maybe make less money. But I know that when time comes, and when you get back, I'll hopefully be able to kind of start working hard again and have that time focus on the business. But right now my family needs me, and that's where I need to be. So I think we need to kind of start developing that mindset where sometimes it's okay to take a back seat. And for those of us who have been so high functioning, high strung, focused on a career, sometimes it's okay to step back, focus on the family, focus on career, focus on life, focus on yourself and your mental health as well to recover, and kind of it reframes things, right? And you come back
Yeah.
better, you come back more rested.
No,
So I
for
think
sure. I mean,
that's
it's almost like in a little different way. It's kind of like a vacation, right? It's like a little mental reset. You take some time off, time away. You break away from the routine. Think about different things, do different things. It like freshens you. Um, yeah, it has for me. I mean, for sure. Um, it's been awesome. Like I think having like that different perspective is great. I was watching this like random documentary um, about like astronauts, and one of the astronauts they were interviewing for this documentary, they were talking about just like what does it feel like when you were on the moon compared to like life on Earth. You know, that's what you've known, the only thing any of us have known. And now you're standing on the moon, and the astronaut is talking. He was like, you know, it really puts in true perspective more than anything I've experienced in my life. When you stand on the moon and you look back at the earth and you put your arm out at arm's length and put your thumb up, your thumb nail completely covers the entire earth. You can't even see the earth anymore. And he's like, I realized in that moment how absolutely insignificant of a speck we are, and how all of our problems, all of our issues, all of our stresses, it's covered up just by that. And the universe is
yeah.
so vast. He was like, it's crazy how, in a way, kind of pathetic all the issues we create are, if you think of it in that way. And he's like, so you just can't let anything stop you from doing what makes you happy. And that, like, it kind of resonated with me a lot because I happen to watch that, like, you know, now when I have time off and all of this family time, that, like, life is fleeting and you're never going to get back these moments with your family when your kids are little. You think, oh, I just missed a parent teacher conference, I missed a soccer game here, whatever. But those pile up, and those really are the moments that give life its flavor. And if you keep missing them, you keep like, oh my gosh, I just got to work, I just got to make more money, I just got to see more patients, this and that. That never ends. I mean, you could do that forever. But it's like, it's that, I don't know, it's just that thing that gives you real zest in life for however long we have. It's your family, it's your connections, right? That I thought that was an awesome like way to frame that. How that guy talked
Yeah,
about
I mean, if you think about it, as your kids grow, you have less and less time with them. There's only, uh, with my son being almost 5, I only have like maybe 7 or 8 more years when he wants to hang out with me, right? Or
it. It'll
maybe
be too
even
cool
less.
for you real soon.
Right? I mean, he probably wouldn't want to hang out with me after when he's 13 or 14. He probably would want to go hang out with his friends or other people rather than me because, parents become uncool at a certain age, which is a normal part of growing up, which I think it's necessary to think of your parents as uncool and then kind of explore other things and other avenues and kind of build a different personalities outside of your parents' household. But you only have 7, 8, 9, 10 more years with your kids, where you want to cherish those moments, right? And every older cardiologist that I've talked to recently, who've been practicing for 25 years, 30 years, I interact with them a lot. A lot of people I work with are much older than me, or I see at the hospital. And every time I talk to them, and all they say is, "Hey, one advice I would give you is the work will always be there. Focus on your family, spend time with your kids." Because one regret I have is I did not spend as much time with my kids, and now they've all grown up, they've gone to college, and they have their own lives, and now I wish I had those days back, right? I mean, you can now once, we'll be relatively young when they're grown up and they're gone to maybe college or in high school, and maybe at that time they won't want to spend as much time with us, and we can work as hard and as much as we want at that time because maybe that's all we'd want to do. But right now they're young. They want us. They love spending time with us. They get excited when they see us. These are the years to spend time with your kids, right? These are the times when you come and take your kid out, go have them ride the bicycle and run with them and play with them. And this is not the time to come home and just be worried about working, finishing up notes, or going to round more and see extra patients and do moonlighting shifts or whatever at nighttime. I know a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people just want to make that extra money and money and money. Money. As a physician, and we're in a privileged position, right? Money is everyone wants more money, but money will never be enough, right? You can keep working, and there's always going to be that more money you can make. You can make that extra $2,000, extra $3,000, extra $50,000. We're always going to want more, but at some point you have to tell yourself, this is it. This is where I draw the line. I want to spend this time with my kids instead of making the pursuit of, more money.
No, for sure, man. And even, even like switching gears a bit, like talking about actual like parenting and stuff. I mean, both parents being around, if possible, has a huge impact. I mean, in developing resilience in kids, in the type of play, and that's been studied. I mean, there's so many books about it. I mean, one that Sami and I are reading right now, it's called Tiny Humans, Big Emotions. But there's a lot of research on this that like the way that kids often in default play with their dads versus with their mothers is different, right? In terms of rough play, wrestling, that kind of stuff, emotional play, imaginative play, all this kind of stuff. It's different, and one is not superior to the other. Both are important in raising a balanced human being, and kids need that. They need the resilience, they need the stability, the way that kids interact, and like when they draw happiness, they do it very differently from the father versus from the mother. And that is just how it is. I mean, they're hardwired in their biology. The kids don't know it. They're not actively seeking a dopamine hit or a calming source in one parent and not the other. And so it's super important in terms of the upbringing also of your child and raising a stable population of people for both parents to be around. I mean, it's just healthier. And that's, I think, something that society, especially, right, like post-industrial revolution, when just the rat race really began and people stopped having such tight family units where they were working all the time and gender roles really separated a ton like that, and the fathers were not around as much. And now it's kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say it's shifting completely, it's not reverting back, but it's becoming more balanced. I think that's important, and at least the research would suggest that it would lead to a more balanced human being, right? It would lead to more balanced children growing up because they have exposure to both the male and female parent figures at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the inherent biological um, personalities in terms of men tend to have more testosterone. I read this book kind of about that too, where men tend to have higher amounts of testosterone. Dads are always the one kind of pushing the kids to do more activities that require a little bit more fear, and they push them to kind of tackle their fears, where mom kind of act as that comforting mechanism where they can come to and fall back on if they sometimes fail or about to fail or they're scared. And dads are the ones that end up pushing. Now, the roles could be reversed. I mean, sometimes dad can be that that person that comforts the kid, and the mom can be the one pushing the kid more. But it's always a good strategy where one parent is pushing the kid to do something out of their comfort zone, whereas one parent is there as a mechanism of comfort or support for the kid, and that kind of provides that balance for those kids to know that, hey, there's someone who's there to there's a safe space that I have, but then there's someone also that's pushing me to try something harder. And I've seen that in raising our son, where there's a lot of times where, he's doing something that's new for him. Like, we took him skiing, and, he's struggling with skiing in the beginning, and I'm the one pushing him and pushing him. And I sometimes don't know when to stop pushing, and that's where my wife steps in, right, where she's like, hey, enough, let's let him take a break, let's calm down, let's take a break, and let's go do something else, and then come back and try that again. Same with swimming. I'm the one pushing him, hey, jump, like, no, you have to complete this lap, let's do this. Or riding a bicycle, right? I'm the one
You're
trying
the
him
you're the
to
drill sergeant.
I'm the drill sergeant, where my wife knows when to put the stop on it, and this is, and now you're pushing it too much. Let's kind of bring it back, and let's let him rest. So that, I think there's a role for each parent, and you're absolutely right. I think both parents being there for the kid and being a full part of raising them is very important, and raises balanced kids, more, and kids that know how to take risk, but know that they're okay if they fail as well.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And another interesting thing. I mean, you just mentioned risk. Like we've talked about this a bunch off air, but like, the tolerance that we have as parents for our children doing stuff is very different than like our parents' generation had when we were kids. I mean, like riding bikes in the neighborhood, for example. I think everyone listening on this podcast who has kids who are like 10 and under probably feels nervous letting their kids just roam off and be like, all right, we'll be home by dark. I mean, that's like not as much of a thing anymore at all as it used to be when we were kids. I mean, that was just the norm because we had no way to communicate with our parents if we weren't physically in front of them when we were kids. There were no cell phones. We just get on our bikes, go around the neighborhood, ring a doorbell, meet up some other neighborhood kids, and we would peace out for like 3 hours, 4 hours. We were like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10, and we'd get back by dark because it was dinner time. I think that has changed a lot. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Our kids are still on the younger side, but even our
Yeah,
friends who have older kids, they that style of I don't want to call it hands-off parenting because that has negative connotations. I don't think it's hands-off. That's just what was the norm in the past, and it is not that way now.
yeah, it's different. I mean, it's hard for me to say still because, our kids are too young and not at that stage yet. But, I think it also depends on where you live, right? I mean, if you live in an area that's not as, there's too much traffic on the streets and there's not much of that neighborhood feel, you're going to feel a little uncomfortable letting your kids kind of go around and drive around. And there's not, uh, if it's not a very safe neighborhood, you'll feel scared. But there are a lot of neighborhoods that I've been to where it's a gated community where there's all the neighbors know each other and the kids know each other. And in those situations, I do see kids playing out in the streets, riding their bike, or there are certain neighborhoods in Houston where they have a lot of organized events within that community, within the neighborhood. They have Halloween parties together, and they have a Christmas party together and a farmers market together in that neighborhood, and everyone knows each other. And in those kind of neighborhoods are less and less now. In the age of gentrification, you see less and less of those. But those neighborhoods provide that safe space for kids to be around and free and being out in the streets and playing in a safe space where parents can feel comfortable. So I think that's also another thing to kind of keep eye on and look for when looking for a place to live is looking for neighborhoods like that is important, where you can feel safe for your kids to be out and about versus some of the other neighborhoods in Houston where they're very nice neighborhoods and the houses are very nice and they're very expensive neighborhoods, but they're not just safe for kids to be around, right? So it's different. But I think there's a utility on giving kids certain freedom and letting them be on their own, but also knowing where they are and they're safe, because now we're just much more aware of the dangers out there versus when we were growing up. I think our parents just did not know what kind of people were out there and what kind of harm that could come to us. Maybe, so it's hard to say, but it also depends on where you live, I think.
Yeah, no, there's definitely factors. I mean, I do think as a society we're becoming, and as parents, like hyper vigilant, maybe hyper anxious about stuff. I don't know, and like I don't, our anxiety could even like affect the kids. If we are out and about riding bikes and we're nervous, like every time our kid gets even a little close to the curb, it's like, oh, well, be careful, don't do that. I mean, the kid's gonna they're gonna feed off that. They're gonna think,
They're
oh
gonna
my
feel
gosh,
that.
there's like something crazy over there. Like,
I
I don't
mean,
know. That's just a silly
COVID had a
example.
huge impact on that, right? I mean, some of us had kids during COVID, and as they were growing up, there was a lot of anxiety amongst a lot of people. So people were just like, "Hey, wash your hands, wear a mask." I mean, little kids were wearing a mask.
Yeah,
They were told to have keep distance from other kids. There was a lot more isolation. People were anxious about seeing other people, which was, rightly so. I mean, there was a lot of scary stuff. We didn't know a lot of things at that time, but COVID created a lot of anxiety amongst a lot of kids. And, who knows how these kids who actually went through the rough of COVID, especially if they were 3, 4, 5 years old, and they went through that, what kind of anxiety and they would develop over time. But that was a scary time where people became more hyper vigilant. On top of that, now we have social media where both us and our wives are getting targeted videos of kids getting sick or different parenting strategies, right? Now you're reading this book and you have some ideas about parenting and raising kids versus I read another book and it says completely opposite, or read something on social media on an Instagram post that says no, you're supposed to sleep train a baby versus, and I see another TikTok post that say, oh no, sleep training a baby causes a lot more anxiety in babies.
right.
So then you're gonna get anxious. You're like, I don't know what's right or what's wrong. Are we I think the access to information has created a lot of anxiety amongst parents, where we're trying to do everything by the books. I mean, when we had our our son 4.5 years ago, we just briefly joined this group because we were struggling with sleep in the beginning. So we joined this group, and there was parents on there that were just like to the minute measuring their kids' wake windows and sleep windows, and they were like measuring every single person. They were like obsessing over it. And just reading those posts, we got so anxious about it. We both left that group because we were like, what is this? Like, we can't. This is too much and too much anxiety. But should we be doing this? Should We're not being that
Like
meticulous
hyper
about our
vigilant,
sleep
right,
windows?
right.
Yeah.
But
Um,
in those parents may, I mean, if you think about it, like they probably didn't start that way. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, people become desperate when they think something is going really awry, right? Like if you have a child that it just doesn't sleep, or like, colicky babies, like whatever, they freak out at night and it disturbs their sleep. So you're worried about the kid's development, their growth, their brain, all that stuff. And then you can't sleep, so you start freaking out too. So I mean, I I don't know. I'm not saying
I
that
mean,
every
I
parent should
see
track
it.
their waking hours, but I can see how people could get desperate and go to pretty extreme lengths because they're worried.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. That what I'm saying is there's so much information out there, so many different strategies to do certain things. Whereas back in the day, people were just like, yeah, yeah, just put the baby to sleep, let the baby be awake. They're gonna get tired and they'll fall asleep, and they'll tell you when they're tired. And people went more by the flow because there was not all these books on how to parent properly. Now, is there one right way of parenting? I don't know. We've had that discussion before. Okay, we're raising kids a certain way. Should we be sending kids to public school, private school? Should we be obsessing over different admissions to different programs or after school programs? Our parents who are not doing that, our parents who are not sending their kids to certain schools or certain after school programs, are they doing the wrong thing? And I don't think so. I think everyone has different ways of parenting. Some people do certain things right, and some people might not be doing some things right, right? I mean, families who have a strict schedule for their kids, where from morning to evening every single second is planned, and they're in 5 different after school activities, and they go from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Kids may grow up very disciplined and have a lot of different skills, but versus some other family that is very laissez-faire, and they're just letting their kids be free and come from school and kind of find their own way and just go out and play. Which way is right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean there's no right. It's just whatever works or doesn't work. And
Well,
the kids are so different. They're
sometimes we
wired
think
so
there's one right
differently.
way, right? Sometimes we think that,
Yeah,
oh yeah, I read this book and this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to put the baby to sleep at 8 because otherwise they're going to get overtired, and then they will not sleep and they'll stay up all night or they'll wake up early. Is there such thing as, there might be some truth to certain things, and every baby is different, right? One baby might respond to certain things, and then you're like, oh, that is the right way to do it, whereas some other baby will not respond to that thing, and then
for sure.
so so it creates a lot of anxiety amongst new parents. Should I be feeding the baby at 4 months solid food, and what should be the first solid food that I introduce to the baby? Are they going to develop peanut allergies if I don't introduce peanuts early on? You know,
Yeah,
so there's all these, like, traditional cultures like South Asian cultures, or Eastern cultures always gave kids honey in the first year. Versus,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you're not supposed to do that now that we know that there's botulism. So
Right.
people
What
haven't
was
raised their
the what
kids.
was the first solid food you guys gave your son?
I
Or
think
you
it was
guys gave
rice
us mom?
cereal.
It was
I
rice
think rice
cereal.
cereal. Yeah.
We did like that, that like little Gerber bottle, the pureed carrots. That was the first thing.
Yeah, I think we did rice cereal and we slowly graduated to different vegetables. But maybe that
Yeah.
was the wrong thing to do. Maybe we
Who
messed up his
knows,
gut
dude?
health forever.
All I know
So,
is all of it was gross, dude. I tried them. The first few new things that we get, they're disgusting, bro. I mean, it's so good, I guess, for babies. They have no context. They have no
yeah,
clue what they're eating, but it's
they have
disgusting.
no idea. We started doing one thing was, in the beginning we fed him that stuff, but then Mariam would start making certain things and start adding certain flavors, like certain South Asian flavors, or she would make dal with rice and like kind of mix that up and give it to Aslan so he could start developing flavor. We'd get fajitas, and kind of chop him up and kind of give it to him. So he started, and he's a, we kind of like it. I mean, maybe it's just his personality, but he's a very adventurous eater. Like me, we go out and he's like excited about eating sushi, and he picks up sushi with his chopsticks and starts eating it. And me and him this past weekend just went on a lunch. We both went to the gym, and he did his thing at the gym, in the kids club, and I worked out. And afterwards, just me and him went to a dumpling place. I was like, oh, let me see if he likes dumplings. And
There
we
you
both
go.
went to a dumpling place, and he had soup dumplings and shrimp dumplings, and he was loving it. So I was like, I found my dumpling buddy.
Dude, he's got that Michelin star palate already.
Yeah, already. So
But
it's
that's like,
exciting for me to
kids
be.
kids are so adaptable, right? I mean, if you get them used to stuff and make it like a normal thing, they just catch on to it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, man. I mean, parenting is tough. It's there's no handbook. As I think about it, and our parents were just being parents for the first time. They didn't have a handbook, they didn't have a guide. Growing up, you look up to your parents, you worship them, you think everything they're doing is right, they're experts and they know what they're doing. And when you grow up and you have your own kids, you're like, man, they were just kind of winging it too, like we are. you know they did not know,
And
as
I
well.
don't
And
know, and you just realize like the difference, like with Rayan, our first one, you're just nervous. I mean, I was just nervous about everything, dude. I mean, I was nervous putting a shirt on him. I was like, oh my God, is he gonna break his humerus? Like, they're so tight. The
ortho
little kids are like
ortho
this. I mean,
problems.
putting a sleeve in, I was like, holy crap. But like, you just realize so much of the stuff you build up in your head is like not that big of a deal. Like, they're gonna be fine for a lot of stuff. And so this time, I'm like way more chill with a lot of it.
Oh yeah,
You know
it's
what
a
I mean?
different.
Like,
It's a, going from, I personally feel going from one kid to two kid has its own difficulties, but it's much less anxiety provoking than going from zero to one.
a
It's
hundred
much
percent
less of a,
agree. 100%
yeah,
agree. 0 to 1 was like everything changed.
yeah, everything changed. I mean, we went from being like a couple that could do anything whenever you wanted, go out
Yeah,
or go for a
yeah.
dinner at the whim, to just, kind of planning our life around this baby. Yeah, so the life completely changed going from zero to one. From one to two, life changed a little bit, yeah, but not as much as it drastically changed from going to zero to one. So when someone asks me what's harder, going from zero to one or one to two, I think zero to one is much tougher. And having your first kid is much more anxiety provoking. But whenever a new parent asks me, hey, what is the advice you would give them? What I would say is it gets better. When you have your first kid, you're so anxious in the beginning. You're not sleeping, they're not sleeping, you're worried about how they're feeding, if they're growing. But as they grow past 3 months, 6 months, things just get so much more nicer, more chill. And once they get to that toddler age, 3 or 4 years old, and they become a little bit more independent, it just gets so much more fun and so much nicer. So, but I didn't know that in the first 2 weeks of being a parent. I thought that was the end of my life, and I got scared. I was like, this is it.
Dude, I
This
hear
is what
you.
parenting.
I still, dude, I just still remember when I was sitting, like, Rayan was like just, several hours old. The nurse comes in, they bring all the little hospital clothes. And she was like, yeah, so these are shirts. And I just looked at the nurse. I was like, this is going to sound really dumb, but like, can you show me how to put the shirt on? I just don't want to like break his arm or something. Like, how do you actually get his arm through the sleeve? It was cold. It was February. And
Yeah.
it was really cold when he was born. So they had like all the stuff: the shirts, the pants, the little beanie, the swaddle. And I was like, I mean, I don't know anything. Oh my gosh, how are we gonna take him home? What are we gonna do when we get home?
Dude, the first bath, I had no idea. I just watched the nurse. I was like, dude, I have no idea. I don't want to touch the baby. I'm gonna drop him. He's gonna get
Yeah.
hurt. Like, this is gonna be the end of my parenting. And then just taking, I think we stayed an extra night in the hospital just because we were scared to take the baby home. And with our second one, we're just ready to get out of there. We're like, two
Dude, I
nights,
know.
that's it. We're going home. So
Yeah,
it's a huge difference between the first one and your second one. But parenting is beautiful. It's so much fun. Has its own adventure. Every day is different, and when you see them grow and they become into these, fun personalities and people of their own, it's even more fun. It's
totally.
exciting time for both of us. We both just had daughters, and now we're gonna experience being girl dads.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, that's
All
it
right,
for
guys. Well,
two
thanks for
docs, one
tuning
mic.
in. Another episode of Two Docs, One Mic. We'll catch you next time.